It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott, Mary Jo Foley, they're both here. Lots to talk about. More Windows 11 news. Start your update engines. Qualcomm says, we've got a chip to compete with the M1, but you're not going to get it this year. Cloud PC, you might be getting that next week. And it's goodbye JEDI, hello JWCC. All that and more coming up next on Windows Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit. This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 732. Recorded Wednesday, July 7th, 2021. Black Market ISOs. Windows Weekly is brought to you by ESET. ESET boasts ransomware protection that means business, with internet security products and services backed by world-class research and tech support. Learn how to protect your business from ransomware at business.eset.com/twit. And by Melissa. With the world starting to reopen, you want to make sure your customers' data is up to date. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox 24/7. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Microsoft. As always, with our great dynamic duo of Windows reportage, Mary Jo Foley from allaboutmicrosoft.com, her ZDNet blog, Paul Thurrott from thurrott.com, his blog. Hello, boys and girls. How are you?
I'm not feeling that dynamic today. Feeling
but we are a duo. We're not
a little drowsy. The drowsy duo. Of
the drowsy duo. They are here. Yeah, duo. I shouldn't probably use that phrase.
No, it's okay. It hasn't been ruined yet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Wait for V2. They'll screw it up.
There's actually surprisingly a lot of news given the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Usually it's a little bit slow. This is the all-star break for technology.
I know, right?
Also for Major League Baseball.
Yeah. So, by the way, did you all have a good holiday, the 4th? Was it fun?
It was nice.
Yeah. Fireworks in the city?
Yep.
Did they blow up the Empire State
Valley
building again? Because that was really cool last
Yeah.
year.
So it was on the East River and the Empire State both.
Oh,
at
good.
the same
They did
time.
both. Oh, nice.
They did both.
Nice.
I know.
Yeah, because that was really neat last year.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And in Lower Macungie, of course, everyone owns explosives. So
Yeah, you bet they do.
The whole valley.
So we have friends who live up on the edge of the valley, so they have this vista view of the entire valley. So every township in the area that's doing fireworks, and every idiot in the area is doing his own fireworks. It was, you could just see it was like over here and over here. Like it was just.
I love the smell of gunpowder in the morning.
Yeah.
It smells like Lower Macungie.
Sorry, on July 5th. Why does this place look like Dresden now?
The firebombing of Lehigh Valley.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, happy 4th. I hope you all had a good time, everybody listening, and I think we all did. Now it's time.
I have to ask you one thing.
I saw some silly hat
ask
pictures
Leo
of you, I think.
I know.
You saw the hat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was up with the hat?
Well, it's the 4th. That's my traditional, that's the garb of we Americans as we celebrate our independence.
Parade through Petaluma?
Yeah, I'm the parade, baby.
You're the Grand Master. You have like a staff of some kind.
Well, we went to a 4th of July rooftop party so you could watch the local fireworks. And I thought, well, I'm sure everybody will be wearing festive regalia. Apparently, I was the only one. But people appreciated it, you know, that I took I made the effort to get dressed up as Uncle Sam.
Nice.
Well, you know me, I have a lot of hats, and if I don't wear them to events like that, I don't know what I'm going to do with them.
Sure.
Got to find some use for them.
Sure. But how was the French Laundry before?
Oh, I'm sorry you couldn't come. It was
How great was it, though? Great, right? Okay.
100%.
That's good.
On fleek, as the kids used to say. It was
the kids say.
Yeah, I don't think anymore. Every time I say that now, my daughter looks at me going, "Oh, Dad, you're so last year."
I always ask my daughter if she's using out-of-date apps, you know, like this, just to get on her.
What do you mean, Dad? Come on.
Like
Flappy Bird is long gone. My God.
Just say P interest and she'll
P-
Are you making a vine?
Yeah, are you making a vine? Periscope that to me, will you?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's really good. It's it's a Michelin 3-star. You have a few in town, including Per Se, their sister restaurant.
Yep. I've been there to pursue.
Oh, is it good? So
It's good. Yeah.
he buys up the celebrity chef Thomas Keller, who runs both of those restaurants, buys up the entire butter production of this small Vermont dairy farm.
Nice.
And when they give you the butter, it's almost orange, and
Wow.
it's not dyed orange. It's
Yeah.
and the
Oh.
server said different color every depending on the season and what the cows are eating, but it was amazing. So go back to Per Se and try the butter.
Okay.
Because
Interesting.
Per Se and French Laundry consume all of her production. I don't think she has that many cows, to be honest with you. Now, somebody says I'm insulting the Lehigh Valley. Paul, am I insulting your home?
No, what are you talking about?
No? No, I
No,
don't.
my
have deep
home
affection.
is a fireworks laden hole. I don't. What are you talking about?
No, I have deep affection for the Lehigh Valley.
So
I was
who
talking
doesn't?
to my mom. She says, yeah, we have a cemetery plot in northeast Pennsylvania. I said, yeah, but what town? She said, northeast. I said, yeah, but what town? She says, the town is called, what a terrible name, Northeast Pennsylvania.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So
And also, it's Pennsylvania, so it's not called a town. It's probably a township.
township of North Space East, 16428. But apparently, we have a cemetery plot there waiting for me.
Oh,
So
jeez.
I would not dare insult
That's by the way, that is actually
My
the
future.
slogan of that town. You have a cemetery plot waiting for you.
for you in Northeast. It's in Erie County, 14 miles northeast of Erie. Ironically, this is the best part.
This is in the northwest of the state.
It's in the northwest of the state.
Yeah, that's Erie. Erie is the far northwest part of the state.
That's awesome.
Pennsylvania is full of this kind of paradox / ridiculousness. It
cracks me up. Right on Lake Erie, though, I'll have a beautiful view of the lake.
Nice.
Should be nice.
Excellent.
So no, I'm not mocking Lehigh in any way.
no. It's
That's
beautiful
my
here,
people.
but it's ridiculous too, and we have to celebrate that. It's okay.
It's America,
It sure is.
in
all of its
in all of its
like
glory,
wonder.
in all of its unusual combination, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why we love it. It's unique. It's no Altoona, I'll tell you that. All right, so
Actually, technically it is Altoona, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Yeah, literally, I believe Altoona literally is.
Yeah. Altoona. Just a little ways from Punxsutawney, where the groundhog
Yep. That
lives.
stupid little rat comes out of the ground and screws up my spring every year.
All right, enough fooling around. I guess we better talk about Windows 11.
Okay.
Okay.
Why not?
What's the latest? I have been saying, calm down, everybody. It'll settle down. It's not going to be as bad as you say. Don't worry about it. You don't. First of all, if you can't get it, who cares? You were about to say I don't want it, and then when they said you can't have it, they said, but I want it.
Exactly.
Always.
By the way, that's actually a big part of the psychology of what has happened.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably discussed this in some detail last week, so we don't have to beat this to death this week. But since then, I've kind of written an overview of the way that Microsoft communicated what was happening and how it shifted over time. And this disservice started from before the beginning. They had a pre-briefing with press where they did not highlight any of the details about the problems with the hardware requirements. And, like I said last week, you have to kind of wonder about the psychology of a company that knew full well what kind of impact this was going to have on people and said, let's just do it anyway. And did nothing to try to explain what they were doing, because as I think Mary Jo said last week, this could have been a reasonable story where they could have said, look, it's a new world. We have to have security and, blah, 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 whatever. That there's a positive spin to this that they barely highlighted. And I think that through secrecy, stupidity, bad communication, whatever you want to call it, they really got this one off to a bad start, unfortunately.
But this week 2, how are things going?
A little better.
Now that
Windows
things are settled
11,
down.
week 2.
Week
Right,
2.
week 2, yeah. So, yeah, we're still dying, but we feel a little better. No, it's I would say it's gotten better. I mean, like Leo said, I believe too it's not going to be as bad as Microsoft has said it will be, right? I think they're going to scale back on some of the hardware
too.
stuff.
And
Mary Jo is frozen, by the way.
Oh, Mary Jo.
Why?
Sorry.
She stopped glitching and now she just stopped moving.
She always glitches with like a happy expression on her face. Like if I glitched,
I've never seen anybody look better in the freeze frames. Yeah. She must just always.
Right. What am I doing here?
Always be smiling. You're talking through your teeth. It's an amazing ventriloquist act. It's actually quite impressive, Mary Jo. There we go. We're going to fix her right now. Macungie is the second oldest borough in Lehigh County.
What's the first?
I don't know. I'm just looking at quick facts. It's not the oldest. It's the second oldest, which I don't know. Maybe I'll
probably. Well, it's probably something that's on the river.
Yeah.
Would imagine. But
you're just outside of Allentown.
Yep.
Billy Joel's
I was going to say, isn't there a song?
Yeah.
There is a song. We are living here in Allentown.
Yes, we are.
We're tearing all the factories down. But those factories, by the way, were in Bethlehem, as we previously discussed, not Allentown.
The steel factories, yes.
So, whatever.
All right.
I only lived where there are songs. So I lived in Boston before. There's a good song about Boston. Now I live here. There's a good song about Allentown. So I got a California Dreamin' or something.
There are no
Colorado, Rocky Mountain
High. So you're not. Are you moving? Somebody. The reason that person said you. I'm glad Paul's moving, so he won't. So Leo won't diss. Lehigh. Are you moving?
Okay. First of all, you're not dissing Lehigh Valley. Yeah, we're going to leave this house next year for sure.
Oh, this was your mom's house, as I remember.
It's sort of, stepmom. Yeah.
Stepmom. Are you? And why are you leaving it? Because you don't need such a big place. You got no kids.
Yeah, it's too big.
Yeah,
and we want to be more mobile. We might actually do something where we kind of move around a lot.
Oh, you might do the Mike Elgin nomadic thing.
Yeah, or maybe we'll start with kind of a Sunbird type schedule where we're in one place for 6 months or so. Yeah,
we'll see. What happens? The kids move out, the dog dies, and you get a condo in Florida.
The damn dog, but yeah, we're getting there.
All right. I guess you must have announced that somewhere else, maybe First Ring Daily, that other show you do.
No, I think I probably put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, I think you did it in a newsletter. Because as soon as I read it, I'm like, wait, you're moving again? And you're like, wait, how did you know that? I'm like, I
just got this house perfect. You just got it so nice.
Leo, you own houses. There's no such thing as perfect. And this place, honestly, requires tens of thousands of dollars or more of upkeep that we're just not interested in doing. And
that's usually what does it. You had the teenage boy to clean it up, and now you've lost him. So let's get out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't particularly good at that. But anyway, it's just too, it was too big. It was too big when we moved here. It's way too big now.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sorry. I totally derailed you with that. Back to Windows 11. So
that thing.
It's calmed down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft have they given us more guidance?
Begrudgingly, I would say.
Okay, we had to pry it out of them.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, so Mary Jo, you probably did know about this, but I joke about John Cable and how they pull this guy out every time they need to make an excuse for anything that go wrong. Almost 10 days ago, he actually did have a post. Now, because Microsoft is Microsoft and they can't communicate effectively, John Cable's post did not go to blogs.windows.com. It went to Tech Community or something like that, where I didn't see it. Because why would they ever do things consistently? Anyway, 10 days ago, John Cable penned a post explaining the Windows 11, Lifecycle and what that was going to look like. And a lot of it's some of the stuff we already talked about, 2 years of support for the home and pro versions, 3 years for education and commercial, et cetera, et cetera. But I hadn't read this post before, and I have to say, going through it this morning, I was very interested to see the level of detail. The only thing that I don't think he explained adequately, although I think we can infer from what they're doing with Windows 10, is what the total Windows 11 support lifecycle looks like. In other words, I wondered, I probably said this out loud last week, so 2 or 3 years from now, do we get Windows 12, or what does that look like? Mm-hmm. And I have to guess, because he doesn't say this, but based on how the discussion goes in his post, I would imagine their current plan is to support Windows 11 for 10 years as well.
I have no
just
idea.
a guess. Yeah, no one does really, but that's my guess, just based on what he wrote.
So I've been asking them so many follow-up questions. Like I don't even know how many I've sent them at this point, and they've answered one, I think, maybe out of all of the ones I've sent so far.
Yeah. Well, they're kind of, but they're winging it too, right? I think that's part of it.
I know.
Yeah,
no, but like anything on the servicing side, like I'm like, so are you guys going to have another update to Windows 10 after 21H2? We have nothing to share. Okay.
Yeah.
How long is Windows 11 going to be in market? Like, is it going to be every year we switch to a new version number? We have nothing to share on that right now.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
What about S mode? Like I've seen in different places and different parts, like in your documentation and other places, all different things about, is S mode going away? Is it only going away for Pro and Enterprise, also home or not? We can't say right now. I'm like, so the answer, but you just can't say it. Is that what we have here?
I feel like, honestly, do they know the answer? I feel like the answer changes from week to week, and they're winging it. I really get that kind of a vibe. Yeah,
I feel like they know. So I feel like here's another example though that's crazy. So I've been asking a lot about the SKUs because people have been asking me, so is there definitely a Windows 11 IoT SKU? And I couldn't find any references to it. And then 2 days ago or so, there was a blog post saying, by the way, of course there will be a Windows 11 IoT
of course.
SKU. And I'm like, but okay, when I asked you guys that, you couldn't answer, but you must have known that answer since here's a blog post about it, right? I don't know. I just feel like they're trickling this stuff out because maybe because they want to keep the news cycle going. It also just maybe because they thought, like in hindsight, we have all this stuff we have to tell them and we can't tell them all in one day. I don't know.
Well, there's also just pragmatically from like a PR media perspective, we just announced this new system, and what you're asking us is when we're going to kill it.
I know.
Like we don't want to talk about that right now.
I understand that.
But I understand it, but I don't agree with it. Like, man, she froze again. And this time we got her in a bad place.
Finally.
I think we collectively, customers, whether they're commercial, individual, whatever, we do need to know what the life cycle of support for this thing is. Of course we do. This will determine what we buy and when, and it's just the same story from life. They just can't communicate. It's sad.
I know. It is.
I wish they would get over this.
No, so I think a lot of people forgot this, but when the day Microsoft announced Windows 10, like a day later or maybe a couple days later, they told us support would end in 2025. That's when they told us that. Yeah.
That's funny.
And so I'm like, okay, so you guys told us this years ago, and now you can't tell us about Windows 11. Why? Why can't you tell us this?
Because they're terrible. They just don't.
It was 10. It's 10 years, right? Is that the nominal life cycle?
No. So they changed that. Remember?
Historically, it was. Yeah.
So they've changed like long-term servicing updates support from 10 years to 5. So I wonder if the whole OS is going to be 5 or not.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. Well, I'm just kind of.
I mean, how about 5 years of feature updates, 5 years of just support with security updates?
Yeah, that would be
that's
good. Yep.
Basically what happened to Windows 10, right? Or is happening.
Yeah. Yep.
That's fine. And that, by the way, that does map to the 10-year that was mainstream.
That's about right. 5 plus 5.
And extended support, right? I mean, it's, and honestly, most versions of Windows didn't get a heck of a lot of support from like new feature perspective over that first 5 years. I mean, Windows 7, as I recall, got basically nothing. They got SP1. And then Windows 8, they had to rapidly evolve that one because it was so terrible. And then Windows 10, I would say maybe 4 years of actively trying to add new features before they finally woke up that no one cares. But whatever, close enough. Anyway, they could tell us, but they aren't. So I don't know what to say.
What about the hardware requirements? Because that was the other really big sticking point. Have they?
Yeah. So no, all that's happened there is I wrote that article where I kind of broke down how that story has kind of evolved over time. I'll call it. I mean, where we've left it is they're allowing people with older hardware into the Insider program now. That includes people who don't have TPM 2.0, people that don't have an 8th generation or newer Intel chips that are equivalent on AMD side.
Demonstrating that it works, by the way.
Well, yeah, that's not what they're trying to demonstrate, but that's a good point. they're going to look at that and they'll say, based on feedback, we've allowed 7th gen, and I'm sure that's how it's going to go. But
have they ever clarified why they require TPM2 and 8th gen?
It is security. Literally for those security reasons.
Security. Yeah. So the 8th gen was the first with Spectre and meltdown mitigations. Built in.
By the way, that was an early guess of mine. I mean, I was looking at the timetable and why would you choose this chipset? I mean, it's also the first time that the Intel chips went to quad core, so that is just a small performance boost, I'm sure. But yeah, I like I said, Mary Jo said this last week. I mean, I feel like there is a good story to tell here. With Windows 10, they kind of talked about the importance of getting everyone on the same version because it's so much easier to mitigate, not to mitigate, but to fix problems. Mm-hmm. With Windows 11, they're kind of putting a truth behind it with these hardware requirements because these hardware types have security mitigations built into them, so they can proactively work to get rid of security problems, including problems that might occur with the firmware while the OS isn't running, et cetera, et cetera. It's it's a reasonable thing to ask, but my God, they really haven't done a good job of telling that story.
No, they haven't. And and then there is the story they don't want to tell, which is they want to help OEM partners sell new PCs. Yep. And so I mean, it's like these two things. They're like, how can we make these two things converge? Security.
I don't think the second one happens though. I don't feel like anything Microsoft does will do anything to help with PCs. I just don't. There's no
really.
No, because if there is a need-based reason that people are buying PCs because of COVID or whatever, they don't care what version of Windows it has. They just need the computer. And the fact that now it's available with Windows 11 or Windows 11 is going to be a free update is not going to matter at all to those people. So if they think they're going to excite people in 2021, 2022 about some new version of Windows, and that's going to cause them to spend between $500 and $2,000 or whatever it is on a typical new computer, I think they're in for a shock because that isn't going to be why anyone buys a computer. Yeah. It just isn't. Like, I love Windows 11. I think it looks great. I like it. I like the way it works. But I think this is going to trigger like a new renaissance period for the PC? Yeah. No, there's no way. No way.
Yeah, unless they have, I mean, they've said kind of generically that they will have performance improvements, right? And some people I've seen saying, some people are saying they are seeing this already. I can't say that I'm seeing that.
That's so, it's.
I'm sorry, that's
so
nonsense.
Psychological. It's so subjective.
Yes, it feels faster. No, it's not.
People,
fast.
I know. I'm like, wait, how do you know it's faster? Like, are you like benchmarking it, or like what is happening?
No, they just this is a very normal human reaction.
Yeah. But Microsoft has said
it must be faster. Why would they have changed it?
No, they have said that, right? So that's one of the. If there was a substantial thing,
the performance benefits are mostly going to come through these new types of chipsets that aren't even in the market yet. That have the big little core architecture like ARM.
Okay.
Intel has some early versions of those. Supposedly 10 to 15% faster, but those computers are terrible today. So you need a 10 to 15% performance boost to be normal. I've used Windows 11 now on several different computers. I've never once used one where I said, oh my God, this thing is really fast. In fact, in Windows 10 on ARM, if anything, Windows 11 on ARM, I guess, is, if this sounds possible, is possibly even slower. It's terrible. It's a big problem. Mm-hmm. It's a really big problem. So I don't know. I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to remember, when do the 3 years of extended security updates for Windows 7 end? Is that next year?
That's a good question. That's got to be soon.
Because if it is, that could boost new PC sales, right?
There you go. That's beautiful. And by the way, that might explain more than anything why they're doing this right now.
Yeah, maybe.
Right? It might. Right. I mean, that's interesting. Yeah. So
I got to look this up now.
I am looking at this now too. That might have a squishy timeline on it because it may be based on how much people need it, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. 2019. So 2022.
Yeah, there you go. That might explain Windows 11 better than anything.
Yeah.
The timing of it, right? Rather than it just being Windows 10, 21, H2 or whatever.
Maybe.
Interesting. All right, what else we got?
I could tell you're interested. So, yeah, I didn't want to interrupt.
Well, no, I mean, I get emails from people who are like, should I test this thing yet?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
cynically, you want to
That's
be like,
too
if you're
early,
asking this
right?
question, you shouldn't. But I feel like there's a certain set of things that people are going to go into when they look at Windows 11. That performance thing is actually a really good example. But there are people that just knee jerk. They're like, I don't like the UI,
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're going to have to figure it out, dude, because this is the UI. So there are going to be utilities from Stardock. There are going to be registry hacks that will bring back things from Windows 10. If that's what you want, then that's fine. I think that's fine. That's a better plan to me than sticking with Windows 10 on an older computer. But, people will do what they're going to do. I will say, if you are interested in testing Windows 11 and you're not doing it yet, there are two factors at either end of the spectrum. One is that it's not complete yet. So there are features like the Android app compatibility that are not in here. The chat with Windows Microsoft Teams is not there. And, maybe you want to wait for that. And I get that. But on the other hand, this is going to be a really short testing window. This thing is coming way faster than I think a lot of people believe. And what that means is they're going to lock this thing down very quickly. And if you want to have any voice at all in testing Windows 11, you might want to grab a secondary computer if you have one and dive in today, because that window is going to close really quick.
Yeah.
And honestly,
Yeah. By the way, do you know Bug Bash starts today for Windows 11?
I mean, and that's usually something that happens right at the end.
At the end, right? I'm like, oh yeah, because what we think is going to happen is Windows. So the first iteration of Windows 11 is actually done, right? Like that's already done. And then there'll be the one that comes out in the fall. So they're still adding features and tweaking things for the fall update to Windows 11. That is the one that'll roll out. But yeah, you're right. The window of opportunity for actually having any kind of real input is pretty small. Right?
Yeah. And if you people probably forget this by and large, but if you think back to the very first version of Windows 10 and you were to open up the settings app, there were like 6 or 7 items there. It was like the most basic, barest UI imaginable. And if you look at the last version in Windows 10 today, or even better, the version of Windows 11, you can see that over time, this thing has exploded with features, and they've had to build out the UI and kind of rethink how navigation works. And they pulled in a lot of features that only used to be in Control Panel, et cetera, like time has gone by. And I think the first version of Windows 11 is going to be a little bit like that. The first version is going to be really basic. You kind of click on the taskbar and you get one option. That's it. But surely there is a happy middle ground between that one option and the 22 options we have in Windows 10, because there must be some options on that context menu that are used by a lot of people, like Task Manager or whatever. And maybe those should be surfaced again in the UI, and we can kind of build it out over time. But that's just one tiny part of the system. There are probably 100 places in the UI where that has to happen. So Windows 11, version 22H1, and I'm sure that's how they're going to call these things as we move forward. Like each of those versions will probably introduce more, I don't want to call it complexity, but I feel like it will start building back the UI, some of that stuff that we lost, frankly.
Well, except only one feature update per year for Windows 11.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. In
So
a
that
second.
means
Okay. Yeah.
It'll
So
take
no
a while
21.
to add that, unless they can add it to
they have
other
all these
channels.
different ways. You're right. So I shouldn't have said 22H1 for one thing, because there is no such thing. There'll be the one feature update, and that will be in the second half of the year.
Right.
But one of the things we've talked a lot about on the show is the myriad of ways now they have to update the OS outside of that normal feature update scheme, because less disruptive ways. So whether they're Windows Experience feature packs, what are those called? Feature Experience packs, or whatever, cumulative updates, normal monthly updates, whatever it is, store updates. I hope they're not going to leave this thing sitting here, which is a weird thing for me to say in a way, because I have been complaining about Windows as a service and too many updates. But Windows 11 being a new system is not going to meet everyone's needs on day one. And I don't know. It's something I feel like they should pay attention to.
A quick correction. Windows 7 extended security updates are expiring in January 2023, not next year. Okay. Thanks, Taro Alhonen. That was good.
Yeah. Okay. But that will give them a chance to get Windows 11 into a better state for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny that you said if you want to have some input into the UI, try it out now. Who are those people who are so
actually getting to have input?
Such experts that they go,
No, it's not that. I feel like you need a groundswell of voices of people who are Windows 10 users today who say, not that the UX experts, right? In other words, people who say something like, "Oh, the taskbar button shouldn't be centered because of muscle memory." And okay, whatever. That's your opinion. That's fine. The aesthetics of something are subjective. What I'm referring more to is feedback along the lines of, we used to do this in Windows 10 all the time. I rely on this, and now it's 2 extra steps in Windows 11. Is there some reason why this option in the context menu I happen to mention, or wherever else in the UI? There's a lot of, you can look at the start menu. I can right now look at it and give you 12 problems with this thing, right? The fact that
do you think you have to be a big customer to have an impact, though? I mean, could some guy just come along and say, I wish.
What I'd like to see is enough people latch onto the same ideas, and that the weight of that is what might cause Microsoft to make changes, right? And that's kind of what I'm getting at. If enough people test this and enough people bring up the same issues, like let's say for some reason, some big percentage of people are used to right-clicking on the taskbar and accessing Task Manager, right? I can tell you the workarounds. You can right-click something and get to it just as quickly today. But if you're used to that thing and you want it to be back, and you do complain about it into the feedback hub for Windows 11, and then 100 other people do it, and 1,000 other people, or whatever it is, maybe we can help drive a little change.
From Microsoft's point of view, is that an important part of these pre-release, these public betas? Is that
no? They ignore all of what I just described.
It's bug. Is it, or is more bug testing, or what are they? What are they looking at?
I think so. I think there is some telemetry being taken from the Insider program, but I don't think it's anywhere near what people think. Right.
It's more of a marketing thing than anything.
If you read any Microsoft blog that is about some product, right? It could be OneDrive. It could be, I'm trying to make stuff like Windows. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, the mail app or something like this. People will have been complaining about things, whatever it is, for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden one day this blog post will pop up and Microsoft will say, "Hey, good news, everybody. We made this change to OneDrive," just to pick on OneDrive for no reason. This was one of our top feature requests, and now we have come through on it. In the preceding 5 years, they did absolutely nothing about it. They never mentioned it publicly. They never confirmed that they had heard the feedback or that they cared or whatever. Right. And it just kind of randomly one day they'll just pop out and fix something and say, "Look, it was number 1 on our list." And, the cynical among us will say, "It was number 1 on your list 7 years ago. What have you been doing?" At least they fixed it.
Every once in a while, there is such an outcry over something. I'm thinking about some of the Bing search stuff they were going to do, that they have to undo it immediately because everybody is screaming.
Oh,
like customers.
By the way, you want to know one of the greatest things that they've changed in Windows 11 that no one is talking about, especially Microsoft? When you set this thing up from a clean install, so it's next year, you buy a new computer, Windows 11 is on it, you flip open the screen, hit the power button. You don't get Cortana yelling at you. Right?
Yeah, that's good.
This was such a problem. I complained about this very vocally. I complained about it to people directly at Microsoft. I got some of the worst feedback I've ever received from that company on this topic. I was told that I was insensitive because this was an accessibility feature. I told that person they were full of crap because I have a son who's handicapped, and this is not an accessibility feature. This is stupid. Apple has already figured out the right way to do this. And the right way to do this is you don't yell at people who don't need it. When you open the laptop lid, you sit there and wait for a few minutes. And then if 2 or 3 minutes goes by and they haven't interacted with the computer, then you talk to them. Then you say, "Hey, did you need some help with something?" That's what Apple does with Mac OS 10 or Mac OS now. Guess what they do in Windows 11 now? Exactly the same thing.
That's good.
If you, these, I hate to say it like that, like these people, but the people I complained to at Microsoft, publicly, privately, all shot back at me like I was some kind of an idiot. There were videos on the internet of people setting up multiple computers where the Cortana thing comes on every computer in the room, and it's like this nightmare of noise and sound. They acted like I had no idea what I was talking about. But here's the thing. I wasn't on like the cutting edge of good feedback. I was giving them the same feedback that they were hearing from thousands of other people. They never acknowledged it. They never said anything about it. But then Windows 11 came out and they just literally silently fixed it. And I got to say, that kind of behavior rubs me the wrong way, right? It's just not good customer service. And it's not, it flies in the face of their supposed customer centric, thing. It's just like this. When's Windows 11 support going to, whatever. Yeah, we don't know. Yeah, you do know, Yeah. I don't know. Sorry. I didn't mean to go off on a rant there, but I just remembered this, having done so many of these installs. Like, Cortana's gone from setup now. Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
A little Wi-Fi here, a little Wi-Fi there.
When we're saying you have another, besides having direct influence on the product team, which we're both admitting isn't really a thing. Like it's a tiny chance that you will. The other thing you can do is have influence on your own company, which is if you have an insider ring in your own company and something's going to be a problem for your company with the new UI or with one of the features, you can warn people and just say, okay, so Windows 11 is coming out this fall, but I've tried it and we shouldn't upgrade to it yet until they have a chance to do blah and blah and blah. So at least you can kind of head things off at the pass a little bit, I feel like, if you are running an early build, even if you're just doing it like in your own insider ring, just you and a few people, or just you even.
Right.
Yeah.
So mostly it's a marketing exercise, and the people who do it enjoy it because they get to look at the new thing, and that's cool.
Well, when they started the Windows Insider program, you got to remember we heard about this at the original Windows 11 or Windows 10 launch event, right?
Yeah.
Windows 10 back in September 2014. And, Terry Myerson had taken over the Windows group. Terry Myerson came up out of the Windows Phone team. Terry Myerson was the anti-Steven Sinofsky. Sinofsky developed Windows in complete secrecy. And that kind of weird overreaction was a direct result of what had happened with Longhorn. They created Longhorn transparently and then failed. And he said, we're never going to do that again. We're not going to overpromise and underdeliver like they did. We're going to underpromise and overdeliver. And unfortunately, they underpromised and underdelivered, but whatever. Yep. But I really feel strong, especially in this age, as Microsoft is moving like the rest of the world to open software and being open and transparent and everything. You got to develop these things out in the open. And the Windows Insider program was literally an FU to Steven Sinofsky, but it is a good thing kind of theoretically. And it started off as a good thing. It was run by an engineer, Gabe All, and it was about engineering. It was about improving the product. It was literally about gathering feedback and doing the right thing. It was started for all the right reasons. But unfortunately, I think it has devolved into a marketing exercise. There are way too many examples of horrible, horrible things in the Feedback Hub that have sat there for years, and Microsoft has never removed them, that have nothing to do with testing Windows. They're just hate crime type stuff or racist things or whatever it is, just sitting there in the Feedback Hub. So it's hard.
Nobody's reading it, in other words.
That's why, look, we can only do what we can do. We have to work with the system we have. We hope as fans of Windows or Microsoft or whatever that they will fix this thing. I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I think Mary Jo would agree in that days of many, many briefings, the stupidest one we had was with that group. Really unprofessional and poorly done. And I wish they would I look at Windows 11. It's like, we want you to love Windows 10, Satch and Adela said. I'm sure they want you to love Windows 11. And it's like, well, the people who love Windows 11 are in the Insider program. And I got to tell you, you're not putting your best face forward to the world at all. It's terrible. It's embarrassing. Is there anything else I can rant about? What else do I hate?
No. What else do you have on this list? What about, you don't have the rounded corner UI on your Office yet either, right? Are you mad about that?
I am mad about that.
Stop baiting him, Mary Jo. Come on.
Well, that's just
baiting's
random.
been illegal for years.
Yeah, look, I'm sure I'll get it faster than I got the Outlook.com UI. I'm sure.
Okay, Microsoft, make sure he gets it last.
Well, they're already making sure I'm getting it last. It's not like I've been checked like 8 times today.
So wait, I need to ask you a question though. Did you get an update to your Windows 11, the actual OS already? Because I see people saying they have,
like
and I
OS
haven't.
Update. No.
Yeah, like an OS update. No, I haven't.
No, I mean
have
you see you can see stuff related to your computer. That's normal Windows update stuff, or whatever they call those Windows Defender updates.
Yep.
now they've changed that name every once in a while.
Yeah.
No, nothing to speak of.
Nothing, right?
Well, I mean, since.
No, I see somebody on the Discord right now, Tony Tech. He's showing a screenshot where he's getting a cumulative update for Windows 11 right now.
Right now, like today.
Like right this minute. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I probably got one for the leaked build before the real thing came up, but I don't remember.
Me too. I got that. Yeah, I got that.
I think so, but no, not in the past week or whatever.
Yeah, here's somebody else saying, Mousepad 71. I got a WSL2 update for Windows 11 already.
Okay. I don't have WSL. Well, do I? I don't think I have. Yeah, no, I don't have WSL installed.
Right.
So.
Also, Paul, I have a question from Discord for you from Grey Wolf asking do you have the dev ISO for Windows 11? You don't, right?
The dev ISO?
Or do you have an ISO that was like an official ISO? You don't, right?
He has the insider build, right?
I have. No, they didn't release an ISO. I do have ISOs. For
ISO.
11.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't. None of them are official. Microsoft has never officially released one to.
There's no ISO yet. In other words, official ISO.
Yeah. There you go. Sure.
Right. I mean, some people built their own. I've seen people saying they did that.
Yeah, you
right?
can make it. Yeah, you can make one yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have x86 or x64 and also ARM64 ISOs, but they're not.
You made them yourself.
They're black market
Microsoft.
ISOs.
Black market ISOs. Wow.
Right. We're not going to ask you where you got them. We're just asking in general.
All I can say is they appeared one day,
buddy,
and
you want an ISO? I got an ISO right here.
fell out of the back of a truck.
I got all of the ISOs you could ever want.
Oh, and here's another weird thing. Okay, because I saw Paul asking about this on Twitter last week, and I kiddingly gave him an answer. So you were asking, are there VMs images for Windows 11 for Azure yet? There are not for Microsoft. They don't exist yet. And so I said use VMware, and everybody was like, oh, I'm like, no, you can use VMware.
I almost blocked you when you said that, by the way.
But you can.
Yeah, of course. They just released the first Insider Preview. Why would there be Azure images? I mean,
I know. That's what they said to me. They're like, Mary Jo, we just released this.
Just came out. Come on.
I know, but you guys are so gung-ho on people getting to try it out. Like, you better get it on Azure, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Seems to me that'd be a really good way to try it. But okay.
It does, right? Yeah.
But they maybe they're more interested in hardware compatibility than anything else, and that would hide that.
Yeah.
They know it's Azure compatible, or they could figure that out.
Seems like they should. There
are so many things that, like, I just feel like I'm just pouring questions into a black hole and they just never come back out. Like, what about this? What about this, guys?
Right.
Like, it's like I'm not trying to stump the host. I'm just asking questions readers and listeners are asking me.
It's time to play Stump the Host with Mary Jo Foley.
That's my new game show.
I like it.
Right after Family Feud, Stump the
I should
host.
point out that you are one of the hosts, so really you shouldn't be moderating, but okay.
Well, we're used to getting stumped. It's okay.
I know, exactly. No, because really basic things, I'm like, they must have an answer to this, right? Like this seems
It's more like Stump Microsoft.
It kind of is, right?
It's Stump Microsoft PR. You know, the truth is the answers are all out there.
Yeah.
Somebody knows
not
them.
getting communicated to PR at all, or they're just deciding that this is not something they want to discuss.
Or maybe they don't want to go on the record with some of this stuff because they don't want to be committed, right?
Right, maybe.
They haven't decided, or I could see
right.
good corporate communications reasons not to reveal something.
Yeah.
That's a nicer way of saying wing it, which is what I said earlier. But I feel like it's fair to say these things could change, and they don't want to commit to something that they're later going to have to backtrack from. And that's
they don't want to say it's the last version of Windows ever.
And just say that. You know, the way we just said it is an acceptable answer. It's like we have some ideas, but honestly, it's early yet. The thing's not even out.
I guess you could say that. Yeah,
we're gathering feedback from customers. We'll when we are sure, we'll say.
I've never worked on the dark side, i.e., in PR, but I wonder sometimes about the kind of mindset, and I think maybe one of the things is they like to keep it clean and simple and direct, because the messaging. You guys want more detail. You can handle nuance.
Right.
Leo, There's a big difference, but it's like a 1.0 gigahertz dual core processor. Yes, is simple and clear.
Yeah,
it's not the story.
It's wrong,
right?
Yeah, but
that's.
I feel like they really have. They spend a lot of time. I'm thinking. I don't know. Again, never having worked in it beforehand. A lot of meetings, a lot of brainstorming. What are the 5 things? What are the takeaways? And we want the public to hear. Mm-hmm. And we don't want it muddled by, well, maybe, could be, might have be.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's the cynical spin. What are the 5 things we don't want the public to hear?
Or that
on day one. Yeah. I mean, that unfortunately might be part of it too.
Called messaging, and that's the job. Your job is different. Your job is truthing.
Yes,
we're trying to get the message that doesn't want to be delivered.
right. And they're trying to make a very clear, coherent, storyline.
Yeah. No, they have briefing documents. You guys have probably, I don't know if our listeners here and viewers have seen these, but they have complete Q&As, like where they ask rhetorical questions or real questions.
Why don't you ask these questions?
Right.
Right.
No, they'll say, they'll say, if they ask you blah, here's what we want you to say, right? And here's what we don't want you to say. Like, that's how they prepare executives.
It's like a customer service flow chart when you call Verizon or something.
Yeah.
Have you reset the router? Yes, idiot. The reason I'm on the phone, I don't like to talk to people I don't know. I have a problem.
No, and some of it I really do think. Some is really, we don't know, it may change, which they could just say, but they don't want to say that.
No.
Right.
No, because they're writing a cut line. They want that. They want the whole story, one sentence, easily grasped, no nuance, no ambiguity.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, this doesn't happen all that often, but every once in a while you get a complaint from someone in PR, and it's like, man, you really focused on the negative there, and it's like, yeah, I don't work for you.
Right?
Like,
right?
Sorry.
My job is not your job. In fact, to some degree,
it's the reality. I'm focusing on the reality.
To some degree, they're the antithesis of one another.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you could present anything in a negative fashion. Someone on my site was complaining about this requirement that devices be serviceable, repairable, by saying, I hope you're all ready for thicker devices now. It's like, man, they solved global warming. I hope you're all ready to be cold all the time now. It's like, guys, I mean, I guess you could be just negative about stuff, but I feel like there's a kind of a nuanced story to everything. And we try to just provide the whole story, not the cute little bit that Microsoft in this case thinks is the good news.
Yeah. No, your job is very different, and you're very good at it. And that's the thing, is teasing out of this kind of limited information the nuance and the facts, so that people can make.
What is it now? 2 weeks later, we're still struggling here, but we're getting it. I feel like we understand where we're at. I think we have a general understanding of where we could go with the hardware requirements at the very least. But the open stuff to me is still this support stuff. And
that is a big question. Presumably they'll answer that before they release it, right?
But again, I whether you're an individual, but maybe more important to Microsoft, a commercial entity, some kind of a business or government or whatever, these customers have the right to know this. This is important, and it is something they should know. And I find it irresponsible when they don't explain exactly what they're doing, what their plan is. And I always think back to that Windows as a Service announcement, January 2015, and you and I were getting rushed outside to go wherever we were going, probably to do this show, I guess. And we kept asking we were almost jogging. We had to move really quick. And it was like, but what about this? What about this? Like, oh, no, we'll figure it. We got it. And it's like, you have no idea. You don't even know.
Yeah. What
does the lifetime of a device mean? Explain to me how that correlates to a length of support. It doesn't. It's an arbitrary thing. One day we might just decide we're not shipping updates to this thing anymore.
I can make you feel better. You could be covering politics.
That's true.
Right.
Seriously, politicians are far worse. I mean, they're
really by the way, we are covering politics. We're going to talk about the DoD JEDI contract.
That's coming up.
Yeah.
in just a little bit.
Right there.
There's actually some big stories still to come. I
know.
We started with Windows 11 because that's on top of mind, but you know what? Some of the biggest stories are coming up in just a moment.
But hold on, though. Can I ask Paul about one that we haven't talked about on the lineup?
Oh, yeah, please.
The Qualcomm one. Can you explain the story to me here?
Hold your thought, because I want to do a commercial, and then we'll talk about Qualcomm, because that's next.
I didn't know that story, and I saw it in the notes. And
it's
an
interview the CEO of Qualcomm gave that confused the hell out of everybody.
Yeah, right?
Well, it turns out there's a backstory to that. So, yeah, we'll
Good. Paul knows the deets. We'll get to that in a second. But first, a word from our first sponsor, ESET. Actually, a long time sponsor. I used to do ads for ESET maybe a decade ago. They've been around a long time, 30 years. ESET, E-S-E-T, has been a global leader in cybersecurity. It was funny because I've always had a soft spot for ESET, having known them for so long, and I think they're a great company. They make a great, lightweight, easy-to-use antivirus. And I was really surprised when Russell said, "Oh yeah, we use that." I said, "We're using ESET right now?" He said, "Yeah, that we use the enterprise version of ESET. We're protected globally by ESET. Successful ransomware attacks are in the news every day. This new horrific Kaseya story, with maybe as many as 1,500 small businesses just like ours impacted. You got to protect yourself with a solution you trust. It's probably a big reason why we're using ESET, certainly. 2,400 U.S. companies, healthcare facilities, and more falling victim to ransomware have fallen. And 2,400 last year is going to be probably a fraction of the total Kaseya number this year. You need ESET. ESET solutions block advanced threats with multiple layers of protection built right in, but such a light system footprint you won't even know it's there. I didn't. I was kind of surprised. And don't forget the brand new ESET Protect Advanced. This is MSPs love this. Russell really loves this. The security management console gives you real-time visibility of all your endpoints and plays a vital role in preventing and detecting ransomware. You can use it on-prem or via the cloud. And with its advanced features like server security, mail security, and more, they help you sleep a little more soundly at night, knowing you're protected. Now, it's the first thing I ask every time I see Russell. He's in the office today. Are we okay? Are we safe? He said, yeah, we got ESET. Not only does ESET care about protecting your business with solutions like ESET Protect Advanced, they offer resources specifically designed for your employees to protect themselves and your company against things like ransomware and phishing attempts. You get all those endpoints still at home with a lot of people, and that's got to scare you. One of the things ESET does is multi-factor authentication. If you are not yet using MFA at your business, you seriously want to consider ESET Secure Authentication. Employees love it. It's user-friendly. It's easy for you to deploy. It could be used with pretty much everything, Office 365, of course, Google Apps, Dropbox. Once your employees' logins and endpoints are secured with MFA, and by the way, just want to point out, the Colonial Pipeline hack, the ransomware, cost them millions of dollars. Was all because they didn't have MFA on. Well, I mean, it was a multi-stage failure by IT. They were still using a VPN. They still had turned on a VPN server they were no longer using. An employee had left. They didn't disable his account. He had reused his passwords. But I think, one thing, if they had just required, look, if you're going to use a VPN to log on to our company network, you have to use MFA. That would have stymied the ransomware attack. Boom, just like that. Once your employees' logins and endpoints are secured with MFA, now you got to train them for battle against online scams. 95% of all breaches are just simple human error. Your first line of defense is always your employees. ESET has a cybersecurity awareness training program that's fun. It's interactive. They've gamified it, so employees love doing it. It helps them recognize phishing, create strong passwords, follow best practices online, all in under 90 minutes. That's part of ESET, too. They really cover the waterfront here. We've been using ESET for years, and they continue to innovate. I'm really impressed. These educational tools, the secure authentication, ESET Protect Advanced, really can make a big difference in protecting your business. Security is a layered approach. You gotta do all the things. Protect yourself today against successful ransomware attacks. Trust ESET to keep you from becoming another one of those headlines. Try an interactive demo right now of ESET's Protect Advanced at business.eset.com/twit. If you're an MSP, you really want to check this out. That's, Russell does it as an MSP. business.eset.com/twit. Ransomware protection that means business get protected today. business.eset.com/twit. Thank you, ESET, for all you do to protect us, for supporting Windows Weekly, and thank you, Windows Weekly listeners, for supporting the show by using that address. Please, I know you could just go there, but it really helps us if you use business.eset.com/twit. Type those extra characters so that we get the credit for it. business.eset.com/twit. Thank you. Now, Qualcomm. Interview with the CEO. He said, we're gonna compete with Apple in the M1. Of course he said that. Who wouldn't say that?
Right.
Yep.
And he said, weirdly, we're not going to use ARM, but then he said, unless we do.
So I just got a.
That was the ARM part was like, what? So what are they going to use?
Well, okay, so I tried to be clear about this in my own article, but in fact, I just got an email from Qualcomm who thought I wasn't clear enough.
They're probably sorry the guy gave the interview, actually, because I think it muddied the waters.
Well, but here's what's interesting about this. First of all, Qualcomm. Well, two things, I guess. There's a difference between ARM the company, right, and ARM the technology, right? And they're dropping ARM the company, in my view. They're still going to use ARM architecture chipsets, right? But Qualcomm rather bought a company called Nuvia, or they announced it back in January, finalized it in March. Nuvia is a company that makes ARM-based high-performance processors, systems on a chip, specifically for, and this is the quote from back in January, flagship smartphones, next-generation laptops, and then these other types of devices, digital cockpits, advanced drive, blah, blah, whatever. They finalized that acquisition in March. And actually, that was the first time that, what is this guy's name? Cristiano Amon, who's the new CEO of Qualcomm. And by the way, back in March, he might not have yet been the CEO. I think this transition has happened sometime in between. But he said specifically that they were going to use Nuvia technology to develop the first Snapdragon platforms that will feature new internally designed CPUs based on Nuvia technology. And they will be designed for high-performance, ultra-portable laptops, which, by the way, is the one thing that we don't have in the ARM space on Windows is high-performance anything. So the history of this is back, now I forget the year, but I think I want to say it was the end of 2016 or whatever, or 17 maybe, but when Microsoft announced Windows 10 on ARM at a Qualcomm event, they were based on the same chipset that they had in PCs at the time, which I want to say off the top of my head was the Snapdragon 835, something like that. These were woefully inadequate for computers. And since then, they have slightly evolved their smartphone chips. They've, in more recent generations, have more thoroughly evolved. What we've seen is slightly better performance and worse battery life. And I'm not really joking, but I've often wondered out loud if the end game here is we finally improve the performance of ARM for PCs well enough that it competes with Intel and AMD, but now we've lost all the battery life, advantages of the platform, and what's the point of doing it if that's where we end up. So we'll see where we end up. But the reality is Qualcomm's PC-oriented chipsets have not performed well, period.
Right.
And that's true and the other weird thing that happened was last December when Qualcomm would normally have released a new Snapdragon chipset for PCs, they didn't. That event came and went. There was no discussion about it at all. They had released a very tiny update to the 8CX called the 8CX Gen 2. If you're familiar with Snapdragon processors for smartphones, they've been doing that for the past 2 years in the smartphone space as well. At the end of the summer, they released like a, what do they call it? Like a pro version or whatever. I can't remember what the name is, but of the latest smartphone chip, and a handful of phones will use it, whatever. So I believe that the Nuvia acquisition was the reason they didn't announce anything brand new. The problem is the first chipsets based on this design won't appear until the end of next year. So we have a 2-year time period between major versions of Snapdragon chips for PCs, and that's kind of bad timing.
Right.
So that
was my question. Yeah, my question was, okay, so Microsoft is starting to hint again that they're doing a little more with Windows on ARM, right? And they're trying to bring it back, make it more viable. And then I saw this news and I'm like, so what good is it if they have it without the chipset?
So, like I said, there's ARM the company and there's ARM the technology, right? So ARM the company is what licenses, but ARM does other things too, right? They make reference designs. And
true.
One thing that's kind of interesting about ARM, and when you hear this, you kind of naturally figure Qualcomm is going to just kind of follow them down this path, is sometime in the past year, ARM announced something that, by the way, Qualcomm had previously announced for its own chips as well, where they were going to split their chip making or chip designing capabilities for different markets. They were going to do reference design specifically for PCs, for smartphones, for smartwatches and wearables and IoT devices, whatever it was. And Qualcomm had kind of split their own divisions up the same way, but Qualcomm builds chips based on ARM designs. That's the first step. ARM v9 comes out, they take it, they modify it however they want, they make it available in their own, packaging for whatever products. What's different this time, and this is the confusion, I'm using their words here. This is not me writing something. This is me quoting them. These are new internally designed CPUs based on NUVIA technology and expertise that will be designed, like I said, for high performance ultra portable laptops. They're still based on the ARM architecture, right? So I guess you could argue at some point that ARM builds these designs for chips, NUVIA / Qualcomm takes them and modifies them further. I guess the distinction I was trying to draw here is that in the past, Qualcomm worked directly off of ARM designs. With NUVIA, they're working off new internally designed CPUs, their own words, right? That's different to me. It doesn't mean they're not based on ARM technology. It means they're doing it without ARM the company, right? ARM the company is capital ARM. ARM the technology is all caps ARM. So anyway, I apparently wrote this poorly enough that even Qualcomm questioned it. So I'll see what they say when they get back to me. But they wanted to stress the fact that these are still ARM architecture, and I actually did communicate that in the article. But just to be clear,
I just feel like my question was, so between now and the end of next year, nothing is going to happen with Windows on ARM on the processor side.
Not exactly, right? So the weird thing is they recently announced a new lower end chipset, the 7CX, right? Which will be in that $300 what do you call it? Galaxy Book Pro, Galaxy Book Go, right? Yeah, that's neat. That, of course, will offer even worse performance than the 8CX. It's possible, but I mean, it's possible this year as a stopgap, they'll release, like, I'll call it a 9CX or whatever they're going to call that thing. That will offer another generational leap. But I think the real competition for Intel and AMD, the promise that they've made in the past, remember Core i5 levels of performance, to which I joke, what generation, second gen? Because, I mean, they're just not even close. But maybe this is where that becomes possible. So ARM, I think we talked about this last week, but ARM today has 3 big problems. Compatibility, which is going to be partially solved by the x64 thing. Performance, which apparently requires a $1.2 billion acquisition and 2 years of development, is going to will hopefully be fixed with the new chipsets. But the third problem, and this is the killer, and I don't know how you fix this, is the price. I just reviewed a HP Elite Folio, which uses an 8CX Gen 2 processor. That thing starts for a stripper model at $1,500. The version I'm reviewing costs about $2,000, maybe $2,200. You could spend $3,000 on this slow, incompatible, beautiful machine, but I mean, ultimately a piece of junk because it just doesn't do the job. Those chipsets are too expensive. A reasonable premium PC these days costs about $1,300 to $1,500, and that thing would get great battery life, awesome performance, and it would have a little fan noise sometimes. I guess if that is if that's worth $3,000 to you, I guess get an ARM machine, but full compatibility, blah blah blah, whatever. So, we're still in the transition.
We're in a really bad place, right? Because ARM machines today, Windows on ARM machines don't offer better battery life, and they don't offer better performance. Like they already don't. Well, and it's just going to get worse. So we're going to have like a year when there's nothing going on. It sounds like hardware wise, right?
Yeah. So, right. So there's the ARM 64EC technology we talked about probably last week as well, which is the ability to mix and match x64 and ARM64 code. That will require developer buy-in. It's hard to get anyone to do anything when the market is so small for those products.
Yeah.
But it is also, other than the testing that would be required, it's not a particularly technically difficult thing to do. You'd like to pretend it's as easy as checking a box and just make a version for ARM. But honestly, if your application is simpler, that kind of is possible. If it's a complex app, you can have some work. But there's a lot of chicken and egg stuff. But obviously, the compatibility stuff is slowly getting solved. To me, it's performance and price. They're the killers. So it's killer. Like if this computer costs $1,200, I'd be like, okay, well, actually. Maybe. It is a premium computer. It's beautiful. The battery life is good. It's silent. It's got an innovative form factor. You could almost make a case for it, but at the levels they're at, it's like, guys, you can buy beautiful computers for that much money.
Yeah. No, because I saw today, didn't Intel announce today or somebody announced that no more Lakefield chips, right? So then I saw people speculating, so maybe the Surface Neo will have an ARM chip, but I'm like, but why would it have an ARM chip? Because Windows on ARMs is so not there, right? Like it wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Right?
I can't tell you how many times I've been burnt by the performance of this device. Like it has materially impacted my efficiency, and it happens again and again and again. Like it's so frustrating. And I love the form factor. Like I want to love this thing. And it is just, it's a bad relationship. It is,
right? I know.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone says to me, well, what about Windows and ARM? I'm like, what about Windows and ARM? Because there's no there right now at all. Really?
It's still, it's still potentially the future. I mean,
maybe.
I feel like all of these things together, if it comes together correctly, could make this thing make sense.
Someday.
But by the way, Intel is not a small company, and they have a very strong track record of competitors coming in, showing them up, and then they just rebound. And sometimes they license the technology like they did with the x64 stuff. Sometimes they buy the company, which is what they did. I don't remember the name of the Israeli company that came up with the core architecture, but we'll see. I didn't write about this, but I saw a story, for example, that Intel has already erased all of AMD's market share gains this year. Wow. So it's like, I mean, they're a big company. They're one of the other stories I linked to is just Intel, along with Apple, is going to be the first that will be able to take advantage of TMSC's 3-nanometer process starting next year. Intel obviously is going to outsource their stuff until their own fabs are up to speed. That will catapult them from laughing stock to the leading edge immediately. Yeah. And what will 3-nanometer PC processors look like, and how will that impact the market? I mean, that comes back to the original thing I said about ARM is like, if you get the performance up to snuff, but you've killed the battery life, what are we doing here? What's the point of this? Right. And that's how Intel could show them up. So, at the end of the day, whoever wins this, or however the market shakes down, the fact that Microsoft made Windows 10 on ARM, the fact that Qualcomm and Microsoft are working hard to make these chipsets better is going to benefit everyone, because you might end up with Intel or AMD systems, but they'll take advantage of these advances that are happening now that maybe wouldn't have happened, or would have happened a lot more slowly had this not happened. So,
all right. I'm still thinking Windows on ARM's a no.
Well, it is for now, for sure, right?
Yeah, it's just not viable today.
Yeah.
It's so not, and probably not till the end of next year is what you're saying.
If
I don't know how
they come
buy
through
this thing today. Even like that. Well, by the way, just to get x64 compatibility, you have to run the dev channel of the Insider program just to get that. I know. That's been the one constant for the past year. So we now know that's Windows 11. Well, that means you have to have Windows 11 to run.
I know.
Well, Windows 11 is not coming out till October, and for existing computers until the spring or whatever.
Right.
So this is not now. This is the future.
No. Yep. Okay. So it is as bad as I thought. I just wanted to hear.
Well, they're not. Qualcomm is adopting x86 is not the story. They're not doing what they typically do with ARM's designs, they're going with what whatever I said before, this in-house custom design thing.
Yeah. All right.
I feel like this is all a little Apple envy, and you guys should just sit back, relax, and enjoy the Intel. I don't know.
I agree.
I can tell you, I spent the past week or so using an iPhone, and I want to gouge my eye out and throw this thing in the river. I literally have no idea how anyone uses an iPhone, and there are so many things about it that make me crazy, including the night we were trying to take pictures of fireworks, and the iPhone has this automatic night mode thing that you can't turn off, and all my pictures look like clear blue sky because
it doesn't look dark.
I sat there and took a wicked long aperture photo, and it's like, guys, I don't want that. I wanted beautiful dark photos of. I don't get to do that with an iPhone,
Well, you do. There's a third-party app to do that, but
okay, but that's not. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's,
Android phone and Intel-based Windows PC.
Yeah.
Two things.
You guys live in the ghetto. You might as well get used to it.
Well, I use an iPad Air, by the way, for reading and watching movies, and that's the right tablet. Like there is no competition for that thing. So that's the one Apple product where I don't get bitten by the stupidity. But
right.
And I thought, I'm going to test iOS 15. This is going to be great. And I almost snapped that thing in half. I was so mad at it. Like,
you could take a picture with your iPad. I'm just saying.
Oh, please don't.
Yeah. So first of all, I will never be that guy.
Yeah.
But also, it doesn't take very.
I'm trying to watch the fireworks, and this guy has this big screen in front of me, and all I can see.
He's got like the cover part is hanging down. And
yeah, that's the problem. It doubles the size. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people do that. That's very common.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, not recommended.
Mark, I will never do that. I will never be.
I have to say, I'm very happy with my iPhone, but I also, you learn, as you do with any platform, how to make it do what you want it to do. And if you lived with it, you could get used to it. I did just order the Galaxy S21 Ultra, so I'm going to kind of take that to Hawaii on vacation and try that out.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah,
that should be great.
I've had a Pixel for a while, but I thought, I should really see how the other
but they don't have a Pixel that has all the lenses yet.
No, man, this thing, the zoom on this is pretty awesome.
Yep, it's awesome. Yep.
So, I think a lot of this comes from we really we gotta do something about the M1.
Yep.
And just live with it. When I wanted to play games, what did I buy? I bought a big old AMD with an NVIDIA graphics card because that's the best
true. But
platform.
the thing is, it was obvious before M1 that the Snapdragon chips we had for the Windows
give up
ARM
the ARM thing. Just give it up.
Not working.
Give it up.
Not working.
No, they were like on this really fast pace with Windows on ARM, and then it just fell off a cliff. Like then they just stopped talking about it.
Well, I think they realized. I think they had that understanding. All of a sudden, it was like we can't.
It's not performant.
Yeah.
Can't do the performance bit without killing the battery bit. So we have to rethink this. Mm-hmm. And
it does. It impresses you with what Apple has done. I mean, but I don't think hiring the Nuvia guys gives you, that magic. Right. And I should point out that the Apple chip is based on ARM, so I don't know what Qualcomm's smoking because if they
but the Nuvia chips are also based on ARM. The architecture.
Right.
They're
not from ARM. Right. Is that what he was saying? I don't understand what he was saying.
Custom ARM chip is what it is, right?
But I'm sure Qualcomm has an ARM architecture license and can do that.
I think we're just running into the same marketing versus reality problem. You could make the argument that what they're doing right now is not all that different from what they did directly with ARM, but they want to present with the, whatever the figure was. I want to say 1.2 billion. I'm not sure if that's accurate. But the money we just spent here's why. We're doing stuff different now. It's better, and it's like, well, I mean, it is a different team, and maybe the resulting architecture will be better. But you're still working on an ARM-based design, right? Which you're contorting in some way, and maybe they'll come up with something that is better. Well, they spend all that money on them. They must believe that these guys can pull through on this promise that they were not able to do in-house.
But you can't. You got to design it on a platform that everything's going to work with. You can't. I mean, they don't have Windows on Nuvia. It's going to be ARM, right? I mean, I don't know what it was baffling to me. I didn't understand the point he
made
was
it more
making.
confusing. I feel like the guy made it more confusing, right? Because it's just a new licensee of ARM. right?
Right.
Not you, the guy from.
No, I know Cristiano. No, I know who you mean. I feel like we're mixing up the company and the architecture. That's all.
Yeah.
But ARM doesn't make anything, so no matter what, you're using their design.
ARM makes magic. Whether
Okay,
you
good
use
to
that to
know.
make good magic or bad magic.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, Apple controls the whole stack, and that's going to be something.
Yeah, no,
Qualcomm
that's
does
of
not.
course, and this is where you're right. That fact is benefiting them greatly in this regard. But I will just, again, one of the great advantages of the PC space remains today, and that's the choice thing. And Leo mentioned an AMD based gaming computer because at the time that was literally the best that you could do. Intel may surge ahead in the future. ARM may surge ahead. We have this choice. We have a choice of hardware designs from several different companies, high profile big companies across the board, all kinds of different computers.
Yeah.
Every week, it seems, there's a new computer.
Yeah, even this is the fact that you can get this HP Envy Folio. I mean, that's a testament to the ecosystem. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's also a testament to insanity. But yes, it is.
Well, you don't have to buy
but
it if you
right.
You buy what suits.
Yep. I mean, Apple. I hope you like the silver one.
Yeah, you don't have the choice.
And,
yeah.
Silver
whatever
or
it is. Dark
is.
silver. What do you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Silver or exactly. Darker silver. Yeah. Yep.
All right. I'm glad you explicated because I saw that and I thought,
Me too.
what is he
I
trying to
could not
say?
figure out what was happening. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So the funny thing to me, the controversy to this when I wrote it was I felt like I was late to the game on the story because he actually said this back in March. All he did in the most recent interview with Reuters was reiterate what he had already said before, and I missed it.
Yeah,
To me, like Qualcomm buys Nuvia is not really in my, it's not high on my list of sounds interesting. I didn't understand the import of it because this relates directly to the PC market, and actually that matters to me. So I felt dumb that I didn't write this back in March.
Well, here's a related story.
Used everybody.
One of the secret weapons Apple has with its M1 is using TSMC in their 5 nanometer process. There's a new 3 nanometer process, and guess who? Intel.
Yep. Yeah, Intel is the only major chip maker that actually makes their own chips, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but there you go. And most other companies, Apple, AMD, Samsung, Qualcomm, whoever, farm that stuff out to third parties like TMSC. And, when Apple kind of brags about getting that 7 to 5 to whatever nanometer, they're not building those themselves. Some other companies doing that for them, and they're the ones that have that expertise. And Intel's going to take advantage of that now until they get their own fabs in Arizona, New Mexico, wherever they are.
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll be really cost effective, ramped up for this stuff.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel I get it. I understand the heritage there. I feel like there's this model that every other company on earth uses exists for a reason. But in fact, I would say one of the beautiful things about whatever you want to call this world we live in, the internet economy, is that you can take advantage of the strengths from different companies or people, no matter where they are, and you don't have to do everything yourself. That's I think that's kind of the world, and Intel is living in the past in this capacity. But we'll see what happens. Maybe they have such a good experience here, they decide to go with other companies. Maybe just having your in-house ability and the ability to go with third parties, it makes you more resilient to problems in the future. I mean, what happens if something happens to Taiwan, for example?
Yeah,
is a very real threat. We'll see.
If anything happens to Taiwan, the loss of TSMC is going to be the least of our worries. I'm just going to say.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I just in the context of the PC space or the electronic space. I guess.
We're in a nuclear war, and you can't get those chips anymore.
Yeah, can't get a new iPhone now.
What the hell, man? What's going on? All right, let's take a little break. We got lots more. The JEDI contract, Xbox news, and all that. But first, a word from our sponsor, Melissa. The world is starting to reopen. Maybe time to get reacquainted with your customers. But, things have changed. Over a year, about 30% of customer data goes bad. Phone numbers, addresses, emails. So you want to make sure your customer data has not turned sour. And you certainly don't want to waste money mailing stuff to the wrong address. Let Melissa help you. They're the address experts. They make sure your data is accurate. They make sure your data is current. You're reaching the customers where they are. They've been doing this for over 35 years. 10,000 businesses trust the address experts. And by the way, nobody, once you start using Melissa, you realize the value. Nobody ever leaves. 92% renewal rate. People really love Melissa. You will too. You can verify everything, addresses, emails, phone numbers, even names in real time with Melissa. And I love that because for some reason, people always want to spell my name with a capital P, L-A capital P-O-R-T-E. And I love it that companies that care about their data get Melissa to fix it, small p, and I can kind of tell, yeah, these guys are paying attention. They're not messing with my name. The global address verification service at Melissa works for over 240 countries and territories. You can even do it at the point of entry. They have a very powerful API, so you can build this into your customer service platform. Customers often fat finger numbers, so do CSRs. They enter a number wrong, and suddenly you can't contact that customer again. Let's get it right. And if you're worried about duplicates, every database gets duplicates eventually. With Melissa's data matching, you can eliminate clutter, eliminate duplicates, increase the accuracy of your database, which helps you reduce postage and mailing costs. You want to get the information that completes your customers' profiles better. In fact, you can even add public information like marital status, social media handles, real estate records, and so really flesh out that information about that customer. How's the little woman? I see her name is Rebecca. That kind of thing. Melissa's flexible deployment options, you probably wouldn't want to do it like that, but you get the idea. Offer different platforms to suit any preference, business size, or budget. You can do it on-prem. You can do it via a web service. They even have a secure FTP server you can upload and download to. There's, of course, software as a service delivery. They have their new lookup apps. If you want to take a look at these on iOS and Android, which will help you search names, addresses, and more at your fingertips. Lookups. Look for Melissa lookups. And, of course, your data is absolutely private. They continually undergo independent security audits to reinforce their commitment to data security, to privacy, and, of course, compliance requirements. You have compliance requirements. You'll be glad to know they're GDPR compliant, HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, and the best support. Melissa's Global Support Center offers 24/7 world-famous support when you sign up for that service level agreement. Inquire today. Find out about that. Melissa is still supporting communities and qualifying essential workers during COVID-19. It ain't over yet, kids. You may qualify for 6 months of free service. Apply online at melissa.com. And also, parenthetically, a tip of the hat to Melissa. They were just named a leader in address verification and data quality by G2 Crowd. That's a big deal in their spring 2021 report. Bottom line, make sure your customer contact data is accurate and up to date. You could try Melissa's API in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox 24/7. And you can even get started today with 1,000 records cleaned free. Just go to melissa.com/twit, melissa.com/twit. Melissa, the address experts, melissa.com/twit. We thank them so much for supporting Windows Weekly. Let's talk about PrintNightmare because Microsoft had to issue another patch yesterday, an out-of-band fix.
I know.
Yeah,
and now I hear
what,
it's not fixing it. Is that true?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so the only way to really fix this is to turn off the printer spool,
Spooler. Yeah.
spool service. That was
Print
Microsoft's
spooler.
initial print spooler. Thank you. Printer spool, print spooler. Yeah. To just turn it off. That's the only way to mitigate this.
You don't really need it. On a modern machine, everything's fast. The printers are fast. You don't. That was more for Windows 98 when it was so slow.
Right.
Yeah, you wanted to continue doing something in the let it print in the background.
But yeah, I don't know how to test that. I don't know anything about this other than what I've read. So yeah, but like Mary Jo said, unfortunately, Microsoft has released the patch And what people are saying is, yeah, this doesn't work. You need to turn off the print spooler service still. This is not doing it. So I guess this story is still.
So Steve talked about it yesterday. The first patch they released was hysterical because
deliberately hysterical or just
no,
sadly hysterical.
Sadly hysterical because it merely fixed the one thing that was shown in the proof of concept code, which was a limited subset of the impact. They fixed that. And then another company released the full proof of concept. Oops, they pulled it back, but it was too late. So now there's lots of 0 days. Everybody goes, oh, look. So the first patch they released was laughable. It sounds like the same thing has kind of happened again. I don't know. This is news to me. We had thought that when they shipped this out, a band fix that was it. But I do see people saying, "Oh no, it's still there." Maybe maybe they're confusing this new patch with the old patch. I don't know. Probably not. Right? I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
So PrintNightmare continues to haunt our dreams.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Now, to me, the big story, this is the big story. So I want Mary Jo to talk about Cloud PC, because this is the thing I have really, and maybe I'm completely wrong. I know I am. I think this is the future of Microsoft, at least the future of Windows.
Okay, so the reason I didn't make this a top story when I was helping with the lineup today was because I don't know a whole lot of details, but what I do know is it's going to be announced next week. I am like 99.9999% sure, okay? And here's how I figured this out, for people who like the backstory. Inspire, Microsoft's partner conference, is next week, right? And at Inspire, I was looking for sessions on Cloud PC. I was doing a search. Nothing called Cloud PC. Then I searched for Scott Manchester, because Scott Manchester is the guy who I know has been behind Cloud PC the whole time. And bingo, Scott Manchester is doing a session at Inspire called What's Next in End User Computing.
Oh, Mary Jo, you are good.
I'm like, there it is. There it is.
What else could it be, right?
Did this guy file like a stalker lawsuit against you yet? Or?
He should. I've sent him messages on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, Scott.
Not
hey.
allowed
He's
within
like,
15 yards of his property.
Yeah, so this is the guy who was the director of program management for what Microsoft calls cloud managed desktops. He also led the development of Windows Virtual Desktop. So I've talked about Cloud PC before as being built on top of Windows Virtual Desktop, now called Azure Virtual Desktop, right? And the difference between Azure Virtual Desktop and Cloud PC is the way it's going to be packaged and priced. So all these enterprises right now who use Windows Virtual Desktop / Azure Virtual Desktop, they pay for compute and storage and networking. They pay for all these Azure services as they consume.
It's so expensive.
It's so expensive. So Cloud
we set
PC
it up because for planning for wildfires, we don't, and it's not turned on because it's too expensive. But we can do our editing. We can run Premiere in the cloud on Windows in the cloud. I think Amazon also offers that, but it's expensive.
Yeah. Expensive. So Cloud PC takes this idea of, hey, what if you could run your desktop virtually, but you pay on a flat rate? So we keep hearing there are 3 SKUs. That's been a leak for a long time, like light, heavy, and medium or something like that, where it goes by how much CPU you have, how much RAM you have. And then they basically let you virtualize your desktop, and it runs in Azure in the cloud.
Would it be through a browser, or what kind of client would you use for this?
So Windows is, I would guess, is going to be the client, right? Because and
really?
maybe one day,
really?
That would be my guess.
I want to do it on my Chromebook. I want to do it on my Linuxes.
So my guess is that'll expand over time, right? I would think as they start this out, it's going to be a Windows desktop.
And eventually thin clients.
That's what I think.
There's no reason this can't be like a web interface.
No, one day my guess is they'll say, okay, and now you can also do it on iOS, and you can do it on Android, and you can do it everywhere, right?
If I can run Sea of Thieves in the web browser with xCloud, I should be able to run Windows.
No, my guess is they'll do that. They'll start out with Windows, is my guess, and then they'll move on to expanding that pool of people who can get it, right? So we don't know the price yet. We're going to find that out next week, hopefully. We don't know exactly which clients are supported, like what version of Windows you might have to have. We don't know if multiple SKUs or how they're going to present this, but it's coming for sure. And there are companies out there testing it, right? Like I've run into a few people. I'm like, hey, what do you know about Cloud PC? Oh, we're under NDA. We can't talk about it. We're testing it. I'm like, oh, so it's out there in the wild. Like it's out there, right? They're ready. It's like ready to launch. And
I'd like to know. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious. Like, I get that the consumption model is different, or the payment model, whatever. But what's there must be a technical difference too, don't you think?
Yeah.
Like, I wonder what the and I suppose maybe that's what his session will cover.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
there must be other
look what they're
advantages.
doing with xCloud. They're putting Xbox Blade servers up, right? So when you're playing xCloud, you're playing on an Xbox.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, couldn't they do something similar? I mean, I guess if you could get the cheaper shared version where you got 100 people using Windows on one PC, but you could also have a Blade server dedicated.
Yeah, for high end, like if you have the advanced configuration. Maybe.
Yeah.
Right?
Ultimately, the cost should be the cost of a brand new PC plus 10% amortized over the 3 years that you'd get out of that PC or something like that.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know how they're going to do it.
sensible.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do that. I can tell you, a couple months ago, I found a job posting talking about Cloud PC that they now have erased all the Cloud PC references from. But it said it'll allow endpoint managers to provision cloud-hosted PCs and manage physical and virtual devices through a unified portal with a fixed and predictable price. That's how they described what this is, right?
And that's for business because you want to know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. But I would guess maybe one day this could be for SMBs and maybe consumers too, right? Like someday they could expand that pool of people to be everybody, right?
Someday you will. Send a fax from the beach. Someday you will. What's a fax? That's those old AT&T ads. I just, maybe I'm crazy, but I just feel like this is the solution to so many woes because you handle security, you kind of pass off security, you pass off backup, all of the issues that you have in a business with PCs they're now managed in effect, right? Microsoft is managing it.
Right. And so Microsoft already has this very high-end service called the Microsoft Managed Desktop, where they actually do all this for enterprises like a white glove service.
But it's expensive.
So, very expensive, and only a few companies use it. So what if they could find a way to make it so Microsoft's managing your desktop at a much lower price, right?
So I buy
commodity
thin
service.
clients for everybody. I mean, ideally Chromebooks or something. They're highly
One
secure.
day maybe.
And then I have to buy bandwidth because it's all about bandwidth. And you're going to pay a premium because you're paying for management over and above the cost of a PC, but it's going to save me money.
I would love to see them manage your security updates and manage your feature updates too, right?
they could eliminate the threat of ransomware in effect.
Yeah, I know.
It just
and
seems
I bet
like
they present this. They'll present it as a security thing, right? Like who better to manage end to end than us, right?
And reliable.
We have all these. Yeah. That's my guess how they'll play this next week. I would think this would be their showcase announcement for Inspire. And so my first thought was what's the partner angle? Because they're going to present this to all their reseller partners and systems integrators. But then I was thinking, they're the ones who are going to go out there and sell this, right?
They're the sales force. They're the front line.
I'm like, there we go.
That's why you do this at Inspire. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and if you're an ISV, you add your own apps in at some point, so it's not just virtualizing Windows and Office. Then you're virtualizing other apps as part of your package, right? And I'm like, this has so many layers that they could go, ways they could take it, and ways they could make this a huge product for them, right?
I feel like it's the future of Windows. I really do.
It could be.
I know. I'm.
The future of Windows is almost like no Windows because the point of this really has got to be just to make the apps that you need to be more accessible.
Windows. Right. What I mean, really, if you boil it down, what do we use computers for? Can you do that in the cloud?
Everything, Leo. Everything.
Living man.
Is there anything else?
I like your enterprise guess. I think this is good. This is good. I think you're right.
I think that, I mean, if you're Microsoft, your biggest customer base is business, not consumer, right? Yep. So you start where you're strong.
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, let's start with these guys because we know how to sell to businesses, right? So, yeah.
I do feel like they've got to solve the pricing conundrum. It has to be.
Right. If it's like $100 per user per month, no, right?
Well, maybe, actually.
I mean, if it's a higher end SKU, maybe, but there's got to be lower end than that.
So we get a new person come in. I buy him a $2,000 laptop.
Yeah.
I have to spend money on Russell, our MSP, to get him to set it up, configure it. We pay him a retainer because he's got to be keeping an eye on everything, running all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. $100 a month might not be too much.
Maybe, right. And it depends how you're using it and how many people are using it, who's using it, right? If you're using like a heavy duty resource, like I think it was the Walking Cat who found these different SKUs, like kind of a low, medium, and high. If you're using the high end SKU, it's going to be a premium price, right? Obviously.
Right.
I think Microsoft needs to kind of get away from that though, because I don't know. I guess maybe we could predict what the usage will be. But what you're competing against is a computer on the desk. You're competing against the computer on the desk. I don't have to. But when I buy my ThinkPad, I don't have to tell the ThinkPad ahead of time. I'm going to use you pretty much medium use.
Right.
But you actually
it'll be based on
your own.
It'll be based on your CPU, and all that. Like there'll be a way that you won't have to predict what my usage will be. It'll be based on CPU you need and RAM and storage and all that kind of thing. Right?
And Microsoft probably could price it pretty well because they're going to make money on Windows and Office, on iDrive, on OneDrive.
Right.
It's moving to a service model, which they've always wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's about revenue per customer, not about unit sales.
It's too bad they ruined the term Windows as a service because...
they should never have applied it to updates. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
That just tainted it.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
You want to speculate what they'll call this?
I don't know. I mean, it's called Cloud PC right now. Like if you go to cloudpc.microsoft.com, just like type that into your browser. There it is.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I feel like they still need both models, though. Like Leo described in an interesting example, which is such a classic cloud computing workload, where we've got these accounts set up, and if the wildfires come and we have to abandon our office here, we can fire this thing up. It's going to be expensive, but it's there when we need it. And then when we don't need it, we don't pay for it at all. And I feel like that still has to exist too, right? And that maybe these two things are really just the same offering. It's just that they have different models. Like we have some people that they're just going to use this. They're going to pay every month and there's a flat fee. And there are some people who just need it on demand, or maybe they just need more of it at certain times of the year for whatever their seasonal business or whatever.
Yeah. I'm curious how this is going to fit in with Microsoft 365, right? Like, is it going to be an adjunct to it, or how is that going to play with it, right?
So I just Googled Cloud PC, and an interesting result came up. University of Massachusetts Boston offers Cloud PC if you have a UMass account. They explain your local home computer's performance relies on its own hardware. But just like Netflix, Cloud PC lets you stream access to a powerful PC as if you had an expensive new computer at home.
This is the worst Netflix series of all time, by the way.
But it solves a problem for educational institutions where, especially public institutions, where they don't want to assume everybody has access to their own powerful personal computer. But nowadays with education, you kind of need that capability. So education would be huge.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about education, but I'm like, maybe, Yeah.
Cloud PC is new to campus. And as with anything new, there are bound to be opportunities for improvement.
I wonder if they're testing it or if that's a different product called.
Well, you have to involve remote desktop, install remote desktop.
So you will, for sure. Remote desktop will be like the gateway in, right? Like that's how that'll work. But
you could run that on a Mac. I don't know if you could run that on. Boy, it sure be nice to have it on a thin client of some kind.
I know.
I mean,
It'll be
Microsoft has
interesting to
remote
see.
desktop clients on mobile.
On mobile, sure.
Right. So I wonder if it'll just be like a stage thing, like start out with Windows and then expand it, or if it'll just say, okay, everything is open to it. Like fair game, any platform. They could do that.
Right.
Learn how Cloud PC improves security. It's like a streaming window into a fresh new computer.
Does it really say that?
Yeah. This is at UMass Boston. This is really interesting. A template for education.
Yeah. I mean, I could see them testing it with schools. That would be a good place to test this, right?
Yeah.
They also say UMass Boston is a juicy, they should probably say it, UMass Boston is a juicy target for cyber criminals. Everyone online is at some risk. Yeah, they say juicy. That's the word they use. Juicy. We're juicy.
Wow. They're really trying to speak to the kids, I guess.
Almost every day, UMass is specifically targeted with custom-made attacks. I should let you guys do it. You're the bosses. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll see
I think
next
this
week.
To me, this just seems like the most obvious evolution. Especially with Azure and what Microsoft's doing. I mean, just makes so much sense to me. But you got to be able, and what I guess what's holding it back is reliability and cost, I would guess, right?
I would guess, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but like people keep saying, "Well, look what they did with cloud gaming." Like, of course they could do this.
That was the
enterprise
test.
apps,
That was the
right?
test case. xCloud was a test case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if you can figure out gaming.
I know
over
that's
the
the
cloud,
highest. That's the hardest thing. Way harder than like streaming Office, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll watch next week. I will not
Next
be here.
week.
Micah will be doing the show because I'm in Hawaii.
Oh, nice. Right.
I'll come back nice and tan and relaxed. But next week, when is the Inspire? When is?
So it kicks off Wednesday. So I'm guessing Wednesday we'll know.
So Wednesday. Well, the session though, isn't it on a specific? When's the set? The session
it
that
is.
You reference.
It is, but you got to figure if they are announcing it at Inspire, they're going to have it in the keynote, right?
And the keynote's
They've
Wednesday.
Got to have it in the keynote. Wednesday morning. Yep.
What time?
What time is it?
Micah, you might want to come in a little
11 a.m.
early.
Eastern.
8 a.m. our time. Yeah. Micah might want to come in a little early for that. We'll be doing Floss Weekly, but we can kick those free and open source guys out of the room and say, look, we got a commercial enterprise product right here. Get out of here.
Well, yeah, I don't know. The rest of Inspire is like a lot of partner news.
Yeah, I don't think we want to cover the keynote. But I think that could be a huge story, depending on.
Yeah, but we'll have Windows Weekly right after that.
Partner conference used to be a rich source of information, but that's not been true for a few years.
I know. It used to be so great to go to Inspire.
Is that where Steve Ballmer took your phone and all that? I don't know. Or that was more sales. That was a sales meeting.
Yeah, Inspire was more like every part of the business would present, and so you had the roadmap for all of Microsoft.
Oh,
right?
yeah, very useful. Yeah.
Yeah.
We kind of saw this coming, but Microsoft is going to lose that JEDI deal. The DoD has canceled it, right?
Yeah, I know.
I hope they can still continue in business.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it was a 10 billion, but it was over 10 years, $1 billion.
Yeah,
it's it's a new business in effect.
Yeah,
I think it's because Amazon sued. They were upset. Yeah. They felt like the procurement process wasn't accurate. That the president has put his fingers in the gears, and maybe they would have won or lost. But the problem is, of course, the DoD needs certainty. They don't need uncertainty.
Yeah. Oh, and this was dragging on and on. Like Microsoft won in 2019, and here we are in 2021, and it's still going through the court.
They won again in 2020.
I know.
The DoD announced in September that year that they were going to move forward. They reevaluated it. They didn't see any impropriety.
Yep.
And
so now
the complaining discontinued.
I know they're going to redo the contract and rebid the contract. It's now, instead of called JEDI, it's called Joint Warfare Cloud Capability, JWCC. And so Microsoft's going to bid on it. Amazon's going to bid on it. And I thought that was it, but no, I just read recently Google also will be asked if they would like to bid on it too. And
Oracle bid for the last one.
Yeah. So it's going to be a multi-cloud deal this time, which it should have been the first time, right?
Yeah.
Instead
that's
of
the
winner
central thing,
takes
right?
all. Yeah.
So
Regardless
all
of
of
your
them could
stance.
win then.
Yeah. Everybody can be a winner.
That's how it should be. Every business is right to utilize multiple clouds for fallback purposes
exactly.
or failover purposes, whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously, the U.S. government needs the same thing. It should have always been this.
It should have been. It was weird when they went public with the RFP and they said, and it's winner take all. I remember everyone saying, wait, what?
Yeah, that's not how this should work.
Right?
Yeah, it's just weird.
And everybody all through the bidding thought Amazon had it. AWS, biggest cloud, they're going to win. They have everything. And then for whatever reasons, Microsoft did win. And then
look, without knowing about the exact details of what everyone needs, if you're talking about bringing legacy software forward and modernizing it and cloud enabling it, I do feel like Microsoft has maybe the upper hand there. But obviously, the different parts of the solution.
Yeah. There were, and AWS had some of the capabilities that Microsoft didn't when they won, and then Microsoft subsequently added them. But okay, whatever. They fulfilled the deal and all. But yeah, Microsoft won that modified HoloLens deal that's worth $22 billion over 10 years. So it's not like they don't have any work going on with the government. They're going to be fine, and it's just it's. Like Dina Bass from Bloomberg said on Twitter yesterday, I've wasted so many years of my life reporting on JEDI. I feel her pain. I'm like, now it's over.
Still better than TikTok. I would still take this.
She said
any
that
day
too.
over TikTok.
Yeah, she said
really?
TikTok and JEDI. Oh man, good Lord. But yeah, it's over, and now we're going to be on to a new defense contract, so we can start all over again. Yeah.
Hooray!
Yee.
Microsoft could try to buy TikTok again, and the circle can be complete.
Hey, no, let's not bring that in, okay? Don't give him any ideas, Paul.
Discord was a better fit, but
I thought so too. Yeah, by far.
Discord made a lot of sense.
I know.
All right, let's do it. Xbox time, Paul Thurrott.
No, this will be a short one because there really isn't that much going on. In a recent interview, Xbox chief Phil Spencer admitted that it's going to be a long time before they're going to have any consoles.
Oh, no. Wow.
Component shortage is going to be with us for a while, is the way he said it. Demand has never been like it is now, and it's just, what are you going to do? And, you got to remember, too, when you talk about chips and chipsets and things like that, I mean, this is a relatively small market. Obviously, if this is all you care about, it doesn't help to know that. But I mean, as they try to meet demand for the different chipset customers, I mean, they're going to go with the big guys first.
Yeah.
Sorry. So on that note, I have an Xbox Series X, and I'm now taking bids starting at $2,000. So.
You should. You should.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm
disappointed. So, but at least we have xCloud, and maybe that's going to be the one we all get to do.
That's getting better and better. So that's good. Late-ish, I don't remember the date, June 23rd or something like that. Microsoft announced the final set of games that would be heading out to Xbox Game Pass cross platforms for the rest of the month, but actually included July 1st. So when July came, we didn't get an immediate, here's what's new for July, but that just came, I don't know, yesterday probably. And there's several new games coming over the next 2 weeks. So we'll have a third announcement for July later. And this is some good ones. Medium and Tropico 6. Sorry, Tropico 6. Farming Simulator 19, if your life is too exciting. So that's all happening.
Now that I've defeated the final boss in Valheim, that's pretty much the story of my game.
I'm going to take the Train Simulator to American Midwest, and I'm going to do farming.
There's nothing to do right now.
And then I just mentioned this because it's kind of interesting. Nintendo has been rumored to be coming out with a 4K version of the Switch, and they did announce a new Switch, and it's not 4K. So it's
OLED, but it's not 4K.
Yeah, it's OLED, which is really nice. And it's a bigger display. It's a 7-inch versus a 6.2-inch. And there were, double the storage, 64 gigs. It has Ethernet capabilities when docked, which the old one did not. It's $50 more expensive, which isn't that much, right? $350 versus $300. No talk of component shortages, by the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, they're not using high-end components. They're using the old.
Yeah, right. So it's interesting how this is working out. So this will work with all the existing games, obviously, all the existing controllers and add-ons and all that stuff. So it's all, plug-in compatible. So that's nice. That's, $350. I mean, it's good for them. They seem to have really carved out a little, that's not even a niche. It's a major part of the market, but they've done all right for themselves. Sony and Microsoft are going at it head to head, and Nintendo's over in the corner just, cashing checks. I don't know. They're just, they're doing fine. So good for them.
All right. Well, that was quick. It wasn't even all Xbox.
Was perfect. I loved it.
Back of the book coming up next.
Oh, man.
Let's start the back of the book with Paul Thurrott and his tip of the week.
Yeah, nothing major this week. Sometime in June, Microsoft had a back-to-school sale at the Microsoft Store, and now they're having another one. I don't know why they're doing this like this, but up to $500 off select PCs, gaming PCs, PC peripherals like monitors, $300 off a Surface Pro X, which is probably puts it into the reasonable price category, and $100 off a Surface Go, which you'd be better off spending that money at Starbucks. But there are a bunch of things on sale. So if you've got kids heading to school next year and they need computers and stuff, Microsoft is there to help you. And then this is not related to anything, but I think I mentioned last week or recently I was going to try to finish up the Windows 10 field guide, and I did. So the big hump there was the Microsoft Edge chapter, but Xbox, OneNote, Photos. So it's all updated. So I anticipate that I'm done. If you own the book already, download the latest version. This will, whatever updates may occur, there might be fit and finish little things or typos, whatever. But I think this is going to be the end of it from a major content update perspective. So.
You don't offer 5 years of support for this thing?
I did offer 5 years of support. I started this book in November 2015, and I supported it through, I would say that's almost 6 years. So
now you're done.
Not bad.
Good job. And people who bought it got a hell of a deal.
I think so. They're not going to get as good of a deal in the next one. I can't do this again. No. But, we'll see. Maybe something a little more reasonable, 2 or 3 years or something. Good.
App pick of the week.
Yeah, this one's kind of an oddball one, but I think this is the start of something interesting. So Opera, and it sounds weird when you hear this. Opera announced that its browser for Android, right, which is the mobile platform, for phones and tablets, has now been optimized for Chromebooks. The first time this has ever happened. So it's the first Android app, I should say, the first Android web browser optimized for Chromebooks. And they're literally, now I don't think there is a facility, and there probably isn't, I'm sure there isn't. There's no facility in Chrome OS to make any other browser the default browser, right? I mean, the operating system is based on the web browser. But this is an interesting little bait and switch kind of thing here, right? So you could use a Chromebook for the simplicity, and I guess also, by the way, the ability to run Android apps, kind of skip out the whole Chrome thing, right? Other than settings, I guess, and use Opera for Android as your browser. That's interesting. That's like you could buy a $300 or $400 Opera box now, So I wouldn't be surprised if we see other things like this. I'd like to see Microsoft Edge optimized for Chromebooks, for example. So I just point that out because I feel like a lot of people might have skipped over this, but I think this is interesting. And I've often thought that, especially if you are familiar with the iPad, there are a lot of mobile apps that have gotten quite sophisticated over the years. In fact, honestly, having just updated the Windows 10 Field Guide, I will say that the Photos app is possibly the most sophisticated mobile app in Windows 10 today because it has this incredible video editor capability built into it that almost no one knows about. In fact, to the tune where Microsoft puts a shortcut called Video Editor in your start menu that just launches the photo app and goes into the video editor part of it. I've often thought that, mobile apps could become sophisticated enough to kind of, take over. And I thought we were going to see that with Office. It kind of never happened. And, maybe this is pointing to that same future. So just something to keep an eye on. or if you have a Chromebook, you might want to just give it a shot.
Do you think this is facilitated a little bit by the announcement that there'll be Android apps in the Windows 11 store? Like, this means that there's now a really interesting kind of desktop market for Android apps.
Well, if you accept the fact that Windows 11, well, it's true. Windows 11 is a simplified version of Windows, right? For good, bad, or indifferent, it is absolutely simpler. Maybe you might want to run a simpler browser, right? I mean, as good as Microsoft Edge or Chrome is, like, these are big, busy, complex applications now. Actually, Opera for Android is pretty big, busy, and complex too. But it's interesting that that anyone now can build a very sophisticated app for mobile. There may be very real advantages to wanting to do that. I mean, part of the shift to this whole ARM architecture thing and blah, 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 so forth, are these modern apps that know how to take advantage of the, underlying power management capabilities and unique performance capabilities of the big little architecture. I mean, maybe this is part of this move.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now we switch to Mary Jo Foley for her enterprise pick of the week.
My enterprise pick has to do with SQL Server running on Windows containers. I don't know how many people remember this, but back in 2017, Microsoft shook everybody up by announcing SQL Server 2017 for Windows and Linux. I remember at the time it was like, pigs fly, everyone's like screaming. Now that would be nothing, but then it was, right? And at the same time as they announced the database, they also announced SQL Server would be available on Windows containers and it would be available on Linux containers. So Linux containers moved along, it went into production, and there were a number of people using that product. But SQL Server on Windows containers stayed in beta, and not very many people ever used it. And the reason is containers, the idea of Microsoft Enterprise software running in a Windows container was kind of weird to people. Like, why do I need to run SQL Server in a Windows container, right? And so it never really took off. And this week, actually the day after the 4th, Microsoft said, you know what? We're just going to get rid of that. It's going away. We're taking down all the repos. If you're using it in test, you can keep testing with it and use it to customize things if you want. But we're just getting rid of that. It didn't really work out. They had a long explanation about, due to the existing ecosystem challenges and usage patterns, blah, 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 whatever. They meant nobody was using it. And so, yeah, it's gone.
Can I ask you a question about this?
Yeah.
What does this tell us about SQL Server? Like, this is weird, right?
So I mean, what it tells me is the way SQL has evolved at Microsoft is there's a lot of different ways to use SQL on Azure. In fact, Microsoft just announced recently Azure SQL Managed Instance, right? And that's one of these ARC-enabled things, so you can use an instance of Azure SQL on any cloud, not just on Microsoft's cloud, and on premises, right? So they're making SQL available everywhere still, and you can run it through this new Azure SQL Managed Instance. But the idea of running it like as a piece of enterprise software in a Windows container in the cloud, it just was kind of a kludge at the time, and over time it just doesn't really make sense to go that way.
It just seems.
Are you just mad because the Linux version is still good and like going forward?
I mean, the Linux version of SQL Server was always some kind of a weird subset, wasn't it? Like, and now it's become the mainstream way to do this on Azure.
Yeah. Half of all workloads in Azure or more now, I'm sure, run on Linux, right? and there's a lot of reasons for that. But I feel like in those cases, it makes more sense to run enterprise software in a container on Linux. Like that, it just seems like, that of course, that's how you would do that,
it's
right?
Probably less resource intensive, and it generates less heat and cost, and I'm sure this, whatever. But
if you could run SQL Server in the Azure cloud, like without a container, like do you need a container? Like, is a container always the solution? I shouldn't say that because I know some people think containers. I was going to say
you're definitely going to hear feedback. Of course, it is.
But when I think of Windows containers now, I think there are places where it makes sense to have a Windows container, but it's not the way you have SQL Server in a container. It's more like a sandbox in Windows for security reasons. Like it's a totally different kind of container, but that's how I think of containers in Windows now. You know what I mean?
Can we get Linux out of Azure? Is that a thing? Can we just say no?
No, sorry. You don't get to vote on this.
Let's
there a
get Linux
feedback
out
hub?
of Azure.
Even if you're an insider, you're not getting a vote on that
Get your Linux out of my Azure.
And enterprise pick numero duo.
So I have made this book an enterprise pick many times. It's not the Delphi Bible, but it is a Bible for Office 365. I know what is. Office 365 IT Pros. If you don't already have this book, you should get this book. It's called Office 365 for IT Pros. Our friend Tony Redmond is the lead editor on this book. It's like a massive multiple 1,000-page book, right? And they update it constantly. It's all about planning, managing, and deploying Microsoft 365 apps and services. And it's super in-depth and super technical. And Tony, because he's a good guy and he listens to Windows Weekly, gave me a discount code for the book for our listeners, right? So it's normally $49.95, and you can get it for $39.95.
Wow!
If you use the special discount code, which we'll put in the show notes. Act now, and we're going to put this in the notes. But if you want to write this down or type this now, it's gum, for gumroad.co 0365IT/Windows Weekly.
Okay.
And you'll get the $10 off. I know this. So this book, if you ever have any questions at all about Microsoft 365, Office 365, it's written by MVPs multiple MVPs who know everything about all the apps and all the services in there. So it's kind of like the field guide for Windows by Paul, except it's for Office 365 by the MVPs.
By other people.
Who know it and love it.
They know it. They love it.
Exactly.
And speaking of things we love Deschutes
We do.
Brewery.
Indeed.
And you have
so
a beer
Deschutes,
pick of the week from there.
Yes. Because Deschutes is the code name for Cloud PC.
Oh, yes.
Why not a beer pick from Deschutes? So I like a lot of their beers. The Black Butte Porter is excellent if you like porters. But, of course, my favorite is Fresh Squeezed. It's an IPA. Yes, it is, of course. But the reason it's called Fresh Squeezed is it tastes like orange juice, kind of. It's very tropical, very juicy. It does have hops, of course, because it's a beer, but it's 6.4%, so you can drink several of them and still feel very fine. I love this beer. Whenever I'm on the West Coast, I drink a lot of Fresh Squeezed because you can't really get it easily on the East Coast. You can if you're in Roanoke, Virginia, or sometimes Philadelphia has it, but New York never gets this beer. So yeah, I really would love to get one of these to drink during the webcast next week when they announce Deschutes and toast them. But I don't have one yet. But maybe a nice listener will hook me up before next week.
Cool. All right. Deschutes Fresh Squeezed.
So good. Oh,
Fresh
so good.
Squeezed. Just the name.
I know. It just makes you want to be like, orange juice, yes.
A IPA.
I mean, it's no
Paul
shock
would
top.
love.
It's no shock top. It is indeed no shock top. Thank goodness.
All right. You've done it again. You've made a great show out of almost nothing. So
A meatloaf sign? Well, that's Air Supply.
no, there was a ton of good stuff, actually. Paul Thurrott is at thurrott.com. Last chance to get the now completed field guide to Windows 10. You can get that at leanpub.com. Mary Jo Foley's ZDNet blog is all about Microsoft.com. All about Microsoft.com. And, of course, we gather together of a Wednesday morning my time, 11 a.m. Pacific. It's 2 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's 1800 UTC. But if you want to watch us make the show, you can do that. We stream that live audio and video over at twit.tv/live. People watching live often like to chat with others doing the same, and you can do that at irc.twit.tv. Of course, if you're in Club Twit, there's also a Discord where we're chatting live as well. Club Twit, $7 a month, gives you ad-free versions of all of our shows. The Discord chat, a special Twit Plus feed of stuff that doesn't make it to the podcast. That's all for more information at twit.tv/clubtwit. On-demand versions of all the shows are also available at the website, twit.tv/WW. If you want to download any episode, any of the 732 odd episodes together. And by the way, there's also a YouTube channel with video from all of those shows. There's a link there at the website. Plus, of course, the RSS feed, which you can use to subscribe in any podcast player. If your preferred podcast player allows reviews, leave us a 5-star review. Share your love for Windows Weekly. We'd sure appreciate that. Get the word out. We will be back next week. Well, I won't be. I'll be in Hawaii, but Micah Sargent will be back with the gang to talk about, one hopes, the brand new virtual Windows. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mary Jo. Have a great week. Stay cool. We'll see you next time on Windows Weekly. See you in 2 weeks.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. If you would like to check out more about tech news, then you should check out Tech News Weekly with me, Micah Sargent, my co-host Jason Howell, where we interview the people making and breaking the tech news every week.